Hello, everyone. This is Ed Breniger. I am the host of the Eddy Network podcast. And when I began this venture into conversation 2.5 years ago, I had no idea of what was going to happen. I had some people I wanted to talk to, and I had no idea who would be coming on because I was building this around invitation. And I was given an introduction to a woman named Fateme Banishoeib, who, first of all, was introduced to me as a PhD in chemistry, who had run earlier in her career a vaccine plant for a pharmaceutical company in Texas. And I'm thinking, wow, that's going to be an interesting conversation. But that's not why she was introduced to me. Instead, it's the juncture that her career took her in after she had gone to this conference, and I'm going to let her tell you about that. But she is now an artist and a poet, and we're going to talk about her poetry. And she is one of the ones that encouraged me to think about creating a playlist of poets. So there is one, the Eddy Network Poets Playlist. I hope you will look for that and find that on my Ed Breniger channel. So here we are in conversation, and I know you're going to find Fateme one of the most delightful people that you've seen in many years. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time here on the Eddy Network podcast. Hello, everyone. This is Ed Breniger, and welcome to the Eddy Network podcast. My guest today is Fateme Banishoeib.
Hello, hi Ed. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm glad for you to be here. She's been introduced to me by Kenneth Mickelson, who is one of the co-authors of the new Neo-Generalist and also a guest on the Eddy Network podcast several months ago. So I'm really glad you're here. I'm excited about our conversation. I don't know where it goes, but it's going to go somewhere very, very beautiful, I'm sure. So tell us a little bit about who you are, maybe your background. I think people need to know your background, and then what you really are interested in. What captures your passion, your emotions?
That's a very interesting question, and also a difficult question to answer for people like me who have crossed and bridged and traveled in different places and different backgrounds and everything. So I would say that I'm a bridge. And I've always been a bridge in my life. So I was born in a mixed family. I was born in the south of Italy. My father is from Persia. My mom is Italian. And I've been, since very young age, a bridge between two different cultures. And growing up, I grew up, as a child, I have to say, I was a very highly artistic child, but that wasn't a job. That wasn't a job for my parents. That wasn't something that was considered serious or even responsible. So they did everything they could with very good intentions. It wasn't because they were mean, with very good intention to try to steer me somewhere else. And together with art, my other passion was science. So I decided that I was going to become a scientist. And here again, another bridge in my life. So I bridged arts and science. So I have a PhD in chemistry. So even though so there are actually people of a few years back that know me as a chemist, as a researcher, as a scientist, and people who have met me more recently in the past 7, 8 years, who know me more as an artist or a poet, a painter. So both get surprised when I mention either the arts or the science, but within me, they both live equally. They are partners. There is no one in charge. They actually, my entire life has been devoted trying to bring them both as equal in dialogue with one another. And so you ask me what I'm interested in life. I've always been interested in human development. What makes us human? And that's how I've lived my life. As a young child, I would ask myself, why these differences between Italy, Persia? Why, differences in culture, differences in food, differences in way of saying things or approaching things, differences in religion. And I remember kids when I was at school, in very young age, they would ask me, but what do you feel more Italian or Iranian? And I didn't have an answer. And to be honest, that was a very, stupid or very awkward question to me, because it was almost like asking me to choose. And I did not understand why, first of all, I had to choose, why I could not be both. And so I've been always curious about, okay, why is this choosing? Why is this, I can't be multiple things at the same time? And so I've lived my life traveling and living in so many places, trying to understand what makes us all human. When we strip away all the layers that are part of the culture, of the environment, which of course has an influence, I'm not denying that. When we strip that away, what makes all of us human? And so together with this interest in human development, I've developed and cultivated and starting to pay attention to what I call a sort of cultural artistry, because it's an art. It's an art not only because it's how we put it together and it changes and it transforms all the time, but it's also because it's composed by elements that at times are not linear. Actually, most of the time are not linear, but they look to me more as an abstract painting.
Wow. That's fascinating. And I'm curious as to what it is when a person reaches some level of human development that is, say, fulfilling or flourishing or alive, or what does that look like to you?
Visually, I'm also a very visual person, so I'll try first to put an image to it and then try to describe what it is. Visually, to me, it looks like a very bright painting with colors and strokes of brush that are fluid and almost like are organic and dense. I don't see, as I imagine it, I don't see sharp lines, but I see almost like something coming together with colors blending into one another.
Is it sort of images without boundaries?
Images without boundaries, yes. It's more of a blend coming together, a blend of things and colors together with no separation. And to me, if I were to put words, what that looks like is an individual, a human being that understands, but not at the cognitive level with every cell. So at the cognitive level, at the body level, at the heart level, at the spiritual level, that actually there is no such a separation, but is actually a journey. A journey and an evolution, and there is no beginning, no end. It almost sounds like a poem of Rumi, one of my favorite. beyond ideas of right doing or wrong doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there.
I like that.
And that to me is someone who has, someone like Rumi, who has arrived at the point of evolution, of development. I prefer evolution than development. Development sounds a little bit planned. I don't think we can plan evolution. Is intrinsic to our DNA, is encoded within us. So our purpose in life, which is also the purpose of life, is evolving. Whatever we do, we will evolve to a point. And there is a field where there is no wrong or right.
So this is, I guess we could call it a journey of discovery. We're discovering things. So what is it that you think we are discovering when, let's say, we begin our journey and we step out of our front door and there it is before us? What is it that we're discovering?
That we are humans.
Okay.
That we are humans, and that we are fragile, that we are vulnerable, that we are connected with everything that is around us, and there is no way to escape that. We can try to engineer that. We can try to engineer the relationship or the exchanges that we have with the world, with ourselves. We can try, definitely. We can manipulate that. We can architect that. But ultimately, we will discover that by doing that, we only see a little piece and we miss the fluid colors coming together. We will miss the entire painting. We will only see a very tiny color. It's almost like, using one tube of colors when you have plenty.
I totally get this. This is how I think. The chemist Michael Polanyi, you know that name?
Mm-hmm.
He said that we know more than we can tell.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think that is not just about the world out there, it's also about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so that idea of discovery to me is a way to live. And have you watched the TV show Ted Lasso? Have you seen that show?
No.
Well, in the show, he's an American football coach who comes to coach an English soccer league team that's suffered and has not done well, and it's at one of the lower echelons of the league, and he's just this very positive guy, and he centers his life on believing, whatever that is, believing. And in one of the scenes, he is at a bar with the team, and we're with some members of the team, and the owner and the former owner, who was the husband of the present owner. It's all very complicated, and they end up having this challenge, and playing darts. And so Ted's an American, so the British owner, former owner, thinks, well, he's got this made because he's an American, so he doesn't know how to play darts. And so at the end of it, he says, they begin their game, and then he's got three darts left. I love this scene, and he says, what do I need to get to win? And they tell him, I say, okay, boom, he hits the target, and he's throwing with his left hand, and before he was always throwing with his right hand. And he says, I took my son to school one day, and there was a saying on the wall by Walt Whitman, and it said, "Be curious, not judgmental."
Mm-hmm.
Boom, hits the second target. He says, people have underestimated me all my life, and they've bullied me all my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized it was because
all those people were never curious.
Mm.
And I prefer to be, curious, and he hits the bullseye and he wins the match. And I thought that was such a great way of talking about how we discover ourselves, which is be curious, ask questions, talk to people. I mean, that's why I do this podcast. So, so tell me, what I'm curious about now are people that you have met during your life who have helped you to be the person you are now, and their impact upon you was that they allowed you to be yourself in that way.
Well, there are multiple ways of answer to this question. It's a very interesting question. Of course, every single person has, in a way, had an influence of me, meaning the interaction I've had. We only, this is something I always say, we only exist in relationship with one another. We are not, as much as I would like to be a cave woman, I still live in a society. So everyone has had, everyone who I've met has had an impact, an influence in my life. Yet there are some who have had more influence, have steered the direction of my life more strongly than others. And there are plenty who I can mention, but definitely there are the artists who have steered the direction of my life. And those are the one I actually ask help to, even though I don't have a direct one-on-one dialogue, but I can have a dialogue through the artwork that they left us. And one, not the only one, but one is definitely Maya Angelou, who has tremendously impacted my life. The way she lived her life, the person she became, despite all the struggle that she had to face since a very young age, the poetry she has written, the courage she had showed in her life. And I actually sometimes pray to her. I ask her for advice when I'm at the crossroad, or when I have to take a decision, or when I'm working on something important. I like to ask myself, what would she say? What would she do? Not only her, there is someone else who is constantly in front of me in terms of point of reference, and the painter. She's the painter Hilma Hafklint, who I admire not only for the incredible art that she was capable of making, but for the courage that she had in following a whisper, following a voice, following a direction that led her to create what we only now are discovering. And the courage, her courage, to understand that time when she was alive were not mature for her art to be displayed, to be received by the world. And so her living in her will that her art should not be shown for 20 years after her death.
Oh, wow.
And this, being an artist, is something very painful. And so she embraced her call in a way that I would say is huge. And if I think about us today, that whatever we do, whatever we eat, wherever we go, whatever we do or not do is immediately on social media, and then thinking about, we immediately post everything and we make it like appear whatever, something. And then I think about Hilma Afklint and the work that she has done, and the difficult decision that she had to take, because she knew that times were not mature. Times are not mature now. You can imagine then. And of course there is the poetry of Rumi and the life of Rumi. We know Rumi today as the poet, the mystic, but we forget that or probably we are not curious enough to look and dig a little bit deeper on what he was before becoming a poet. He was a very famous, a very important preacher, and he abandoned everything. He abandoned prestige, his prestige, to follow something. They came out in verses, in poetry. That's what we read now. That's who we know now. But the challenges that he had to face to become the Rumi that we think we know were enormous. So those are the people that they're the stars that somehow guide me.
So this is a hard question to ask, but I'm going to ask anyway. Do you feel like you're like them in that your future will prove and show the genius of your art and your poetry more so in the future than it can be today?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. But there is something that is, I really care. All of them indeed have in common something. Well, no, Rumi was well known also in life. And also Maya Angelou was well known. It took the world some time to catch up with her genius, but she was acknowledged for being Maya Angelou. Also, Hilma af Klint was acknowledged as an artist, not just the artist that she truly was. What I think they all have in common, and we all have in common, is a journey of humankind. So we have this idea that we have to, because it's safety, so we need to belong. But actually, we misunderstand fitting in with belonging. We discussed this via chat already. So some of us have the tendency of chipping away parts of ourselves so that we can fit a mold. And this is very true in a society in which we live now, with social media, fame and likes and so on. So we chip away, we hide parts of ourselves, we hide that genius that is within us in an attempt to be loved. We all want to be loved. We all want. There is no single human being that doesn't want to be loved. But we forget pieces of ourselves. So in a way, my journey is similar. I'm chipping away armors. I'm chipping away labels, trying to uncover the truest part of me. And my way of expressing that is through art. Not only art, but definitely the truest, the most tender, the most vulnerable way in which I express the genius within me, the rainbow, the full rainbow of all my facets, is through art, through paintings, to poetry, to stories. And so that's why these figures are a point of reference, are a star for me, because it's a way of guiding me not to be discouraged, not to forget, not to forget and continue on a road. What will be, I don't know, and none of us knows. But in a way, they've walked a path. We all, in different ways, are walking. I feel a shared path because they are artists. So of course I look at them as artists in my artistic expression. So yeah.
Where did the experience of the whisper enter into this? Where in this process of discovery did that come?
Well, I could read you a poem. Because that's actually the moment, the distinct moment in which, and I can give, I don't know if I can give you details, but of timeline. So let me see, let me find it. So this is a poem called Lean Back. And it definitely signs the moment in which in my lifetime the whisper came. It is a very distinct moment. I just have to find it. Or maybe I can just pull it up on my computer, then it will be probably easier.
We are listening and absorbing even in the silence.
Let me pull it up on my computer.
Okay.
It will be easier.
Okay.
I will read it from my computer. I have a copy here. I found it. So I'll read it.
So
Lean back.
Here we go. Lean back.
Lean back. The whisper, the tiny little whisper inside. I made a career out of not listening to it until it broke me free under the big sky of Montana, nowhere to hide from the truth that nobody knew about me. I ran a manufacturing plant and I hate it. I am a scientist, an executive. I lean into success. I lead from behind and beside. I am a businesswoman at the top of her game. And my whisper saw something else. She saw me dying to fit in the boys' club, dying to prove my worth, dying to move the needle, move faster, move forward. I couldn't hear the whisper that was dying to be heard until a quiet moment in the middle of nowhere where the whisper didn't need to shout to be loud. You are not the businesswoman. You are not a woman in business. You are a woman whose business needs to become working in a new way.
Wow. I like that very much.
Thank you.
And I'm sure there are many people who can identify with that. So, and I think they can identify because they feel trapped in something which is very mechanical. Ask them to be much more like a tool in a machine, and you're breaking out of that into being a human being. Would that be a safe way to describe that?
A human becoming. I like to say human becoming.
Human becoming. Oh, okay.
I can't remember. It's something I've read somewhere. I can't remember the source, the reference, but I really love the idea of a human becoming. To me, it almost looks like this. We spend our life becoming human.
I think it's very true. Certainly fits with my experience. So what, since you wrote that poem, what has your life been like?
My life has been turned upside down.
Is that a good thing?
Well, we shall see at the end of it.
Well,
no.
I mean, up to the day, has it been a good thing?
It's been definitely something that is closer to who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And as I go, there are pieces that come and go, and I become more of me. So writing that poem and writing the entire book has led me to change my life, to change the way I was working, the way I was living, has led me to become more conscious about what I really wanted to do in life, who I really wanted to be, has made me aware of pieces that I had neglected along the way, has reminded me that there has always been poetry running in my blood, and I'd forgotten till that moment, literally till that moment, for 20 years or so. So something I used to do constantly when I was a child suddenly disappeared, suddenly was not part of my life. And so I almost had to trace this back and understand that poetry has always been how I understand the world. Poetry has always been how I can enter a dialogue with myself and what I see or what I hear. And neglecting that has meant for me is almost like walking and working and being in the half of myself was almost like I wasn't able to make sense in the way that would have helped me and whoever was relating with me. So that meant reclaiming poetry, reclaiming art in my life, regardless of what I do. That doesn't mean that there is poetry only when I'm writing poetry, but there is a place for poetry also when I'm doing something else. It's a way of communicating with the world.
Does that mean that you have to somehow get out of the mind of abstractions and get into a different mode of thought or being? And I'm kind of thinking that maybe the right way to ask the question is, how are you listening to yourself, which out of that comes the poetry?
Well, actually, poetry is how I listen to myself, or painting. For me, is exactly the same thing. Paintings or writing a poem is exactly how I listen to myself. And I listen to others as well. And this is particularly true. So for me, it's not a tool. So it's not like, okay, let me listen to myself, or let me see if I understand. It's not a tool, but it's a practice that through which my senses get refined. I get attuned. And that's the difference between a practice and a tool. The tool, I use it to reach an outcome. The practice is actually what makes me. That's the huge difference. Is also the biggest challenge I see for the worlds of art today, that they are used as a tool and not as a practice.
Yeah.
So the way I listen to myself, the way I get to ask myself and the rest and the world questions. So the way I get to be curious, to use something you said before, instead of judging, instead of claiming that I've figured it out all, and I'm very good at that because I'm a scientist, so I have data, I can use data. The way I have is practicing art constantly and see what emerges.
And I'm curious about the practice and the discipline of the practice. So the discipline is what you are doing. Like I carry a journal around, and I just write stuff down and take notes, and out of that comes thoughts, and then it may result in a picture. I'm going to draw an image that's trying to put some abstract things together in something concrete and visual. And is that something you do?
Yes, it's something very similar. Also, so I would always have a piece of paper to write poems, paper and colors or canvas to paint, and to pay attention. Actually, and this is not a belief, is actually science. First we constantly feel. We are not a cognitive machine, we are a feeling being. So first we feel, then we think, and only after we are supposed to act. And I think that we can access the feeling aspect, the emotional, the abstract, through an art practice that will make clear what are we thinking. And once we have them both, the feeling and the thinking, we can choose how to act or what to do. Then is a different way of behaving, is a different way of taking an action, is a different way of choosing, I'm going to do this today, because that decision has been informed by both the feeling, so the abstract, and the thinking, the more linear, the more rational, the more cognitive, but we need them both. And I feel that what we are missing. And in certain environments, actually, it's very predominant. We even tell people, feel, don't be emotional, don't feel, don't show your feelings. It's like, where is the switch? As far as I know, there is no switch in there. So we end up trying to control and repressing. So we don't ever express, and we don't have a language to express our, if you think so, poetry in this really helps. What is our vocabulary? What is to express what we are seeing, what we are feeling, the situation in which we are, what we are dreaming of? We don't even have a language to do that. And the narrower is the language. The narrower is the possibility we have to choose. And sometimes it makes me laugh, because I hear, especially today, a lot of talking about innovation. And I'm like, oh, really? We don't even have a language to do. A new language. A new language for me is not an innovation if we don't even have a language to describe it or to explain it. If I have to use a word that comes from the past, I'm not really innovating, or an image that comes from the past, I'm not innovating. I'm sorry.
I totally agree. And I all my years of being a consultant, organizational consultant, I've seen that a lot, where the language doesn't represent the reality of the situation. And what is needed is more communication between people at an open level, where they're able to actually say, well, this is what I feel when certain things happen, or this is what I'm feeling. I interviewed a group of students from Switzerland last fall, and we were talking, and at the end of the conversation, it was kind of, the summary was, they're disappointed in the way the world works. They have fear about the future, and they want to know what their purpose is. And I was thinking, so where did they go find that? The reason I was talking to them was because there was nobody at their university that mentors young leaders. And so I just invited myself into a conversation with them. So where do people find a way to deal with the disappointments in their life, the fears that they have, but also have a sense of purpose for what they can become, using that word, what they can become in the future?
We simply don't. We power through things. And we are really uncomfortable in dealing with what I call the messy, the messy in between. And I have this practice, actually, is a painting practice, the messy art practice, to express rather than control that messiness. And through this practice actually came, and especially sharing this practice with others, I came to the realization that what we say that is messy, or how we define messiness, tells everything about our relationship with power and control. So if we don't have a way to express it the way it is, not me controlling it and making it pretty, because as soon as we hear the word messy, we want to put it in order, control it, make it pretty, and absolutely they cannot exist in our life. But actually it's messy in our lives, a lot.
Yes.
And we don't have a way to express it. And I think the only way is through art.
I would agree with you. So do you do one type of painting? Has one style, or do you just?
No, I do multiple. I do multiple, predominantly abstract art, with different techniques, with different tools. I see what I'm drawn to, I'm called to let this messiness to be expressed. And there is something I always say, and I always remind myself when I'm there practicing or painting, express, do not impress, because I think that is something
Well, I like
that we
that.
all want to do. We want to impress. I want that like on that whatever. I want everybody telling me like, well done. And it is not about that. It is not why I practice art. And it's funny because this makes me laugh all the time. It really makes me laugh all the time. So my paintings all go under a big bucket of messy art. So I always sign them messy art by me. And here and there, I have people commenting and say, "Oh, it's not messy, it's very pretty." And I'm like, "Well, you just told me." You just told me what I've been claiming all along. There you are.
Yeah.
And it is not. So it is really how we define messiness that tells everything about us, not about the other thing, about us. And it makes me laugh all the time. Well, at the beginning, when people were telling me, "Oh, it's not messy, it's very nice, actually, it's very pretty," I got offended, but now I laugh about it.
Well, I see that messiness is simply an expression of the transitions we're always in.
Yeah.
And it's a search for meaning within the messiness, and the meaning is what enables us to contribute.
Mm.
And that
And it's
meaning
also,
changes. You
it
know,
changes, and it's also a way of looking at things as they are, not as we want them to be.
right.
Or looking at us as we are, not as we want to be or as someone else wants us to be. And or looking, if I were to bring it in a business context, looking at the situation, at the mess, at the conflict for what it is, not for what we want it to be or where we want it to be. Sometimes I actually think that, especially in all this transition, and especially in the fast transition that businesses have to face, sometimes we don't even know where we are anymore, but we are already planning where to go. And I'm like, okay, we can go there, nothing wrong about it, we can go there, but where we are right now in this very moment. And especially when I'm in business context and I ask this question, okay, where we are right now, either they show me that data that don't actually tell me, well, they tell me something, but they don't tell me everything, or I see very confused faces, people not really knowing where they are at the moment.
And are you being an example to them that they can say, "Oh, well, she has found her way through the messiness. I want to be like her." Do you get that kind of reaction?
Sometimes, but it's not, how do I say this? It's not what interests me. I don't
Right.
want anyone to do or to walk my path. What I'm trying to do in my work is inviting people to walk their own path. I don't think that it does not involve art. I think it involves art. If we want to ground ourselves into this concept of becoming and evolution, and it needs to be expressed artistically, but people don't have to paint because I paint. They don't have to write poetry because they do. But what I'm trying to invite others is to find their practice and practice it, not because of the return of investment, not because of this, and this, but because of the practice.
And how are you doing that for people? How are you helping them do that? How are you helping them develop the practice?
Well, there are different ways. It depends at which stage of their evolution they are, and or organization, in which stages of their organizational maturity or cultural level they are. Usually I would walk in and have people practice with me a few practices, and then I will invite them to express in a way that they feel drawn to, and then we will put together, I would say, experience that will help them decide what's the practice for them. So if I were to use a very fancy word, so with me is an initiation, but then they have to practice. I mean, I cannot do the practice for them. So we can initiate something, and they'll have to be at the point in which they have to decide, okay, we will continue. I cannot do it for them. The learning is not mine, it's theirs. And so what they learn is theirs to learn, it's not mine.
I say that everything starts with personal initiative. Mm-hmm. Even cleaning up the mess of your life.
It's
or the mess of someone else's life, or the mess of the world. It starts with you of taking initiative.
Mm-hmm. And it's a commitment. It's actually a commitment, and it's a responsibility that we take for ourselves, for the world, and not because we have a return of investment. It's part of our journey.
Well, one of the things that, pardon my use of this word, one of the things that impressed me about you was the video that you produced for your website.
Which one?
The Whisper.
Okay.
I'm actually going to show it here because I think it expresses something about the way people want to be. And you have expressed that, you gave us the lean back poem, and which I like, and that's in there. But I think that I think what I like about it is that you have this demarcation of a point in time where you decided at that point in time, I'm going to be different than I was yesterday. And that you made that step. You wrote a poem about it, but you made a step and you became different. And I think many of us have those moments in time, and maybe many of us have multiple moments in time where that whisper has said, okay, as in my case, it was on horseback in Wyoming, it's time to stop talking about leadership and lead. Okay, everything that's in front of me, that's offered to me, I will do, because now I know that's what I'm supposed to go do. I'm supposed to lead. I'm supposed to take initiative and all of those things. So I think that that's a really important idea for people, that they can stop doing one thing and start doing something else, and they can change their life almost overnight.
So I remembered actually that since as a child I would write poems. I asked my mom, and my mom said yes, that when I was a little girl I would write everything in poems. And I went back, I even found my journals. They were all written in poetry. And thanks to the Whisper, I remember that poetry was my natural voice. And why? Because poetry is how we seek and we find truth. And that's been my journey till that point, and still now. The poems speak mainly to integration. Probably integrity is my dearest word ever. And by that I mean, how do we become that person who is whole, is complete, by integrating all the parts we are composed by integrating light and shadows. The poetry book, The Whisper, came to me. It was fall 2014. It was a very intense moment of my life, and I decided to take a break, and I went to a writing retreat in Montana. The first night of the retreat, the writing prompt that led us into the retreat itself was write something about yourself that nobody knows. I wrote down, I run a manufacturing plant and I hate it. And it all started there. At the end of 4 days in this beautiful place in Montana, on my flight back home, this notebook was filled of poems. I sat on my seat on the flight and I couldn't stop writing. The whisper wrote literally itself, or herself as I say it, in an unstoppable flow of poems. I still don't believe it. I don't know how this happened and why it did happen, and English is not my mother tongue, and I can't even imagine of being on such a flow of really like what all these pages all came to me, and I don't have words. I'm like actually really speechless, and it's very, very emotional because this is probably a part of me I discover, and I would have never thought it was there and it was present. What is also surprising that the order of the poems came naturally. So not only the poems, but their order, the flow. It's almost like a story. It tells a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. I can't believe it. I sit at the intersection of who I am and what I do, the intersection of a DNA given to me, the intersection of finding identity in the integration of all the parts I'm composed by. The whisper is the call to continue sitting at the intersection. It came out as a flow. I don't think I have a real memory of it, or I was very conscious of what was happening to me. I just remember this feeling that I had to sit. Actually, I was very anxious to sit and to board and take my seat on the flight. And as soon as I sat down, I took out the notebook and the pen and I started writing. I don't actually remember the act of writing. I just remember the feeling I had to write. I couldn't do anything else. I don't even remember who was sitting next to me. I can imagine, this poor person, I don't know if it was a man or a woman, thinking, what is she doing? The only feeling I remember, the only memory I have of that flight is my hands wanted to write, and I don't know what I was writing, and I didn't actually figure it out what was written until I decided to take it back and type everything down. What I discovered at that time when I typed everything down was that my heart was broken, and the whisper came from that brokenness, and it came because of that brokenness. The space between the spirit and the matter. In this space, I get the chance to touch and be touched. I discover it through an untouchable me, the one who hides for fear. I disappeared in that untouched me. I've chosen I sit at intersections because I think that that's one of the poems in the entire book that really represents the main message, the intersection between light and shadows, that I talk very much all over in different ways in the whisper. And it is really about having the capacity of sitting at the intersection where everything integrates. And only by sitting at the intersection we can see the entire picture. We can see how we evolve, how we grow up. And so intersections are very dear to me. Crossroads are very dear to me. Where light and shadows meet are very dear to me. Because are the places where we meet ourselves, where we meet others, and where we can create something new. The whisper came to stop tomorrows and work with what I have. In that intimate space, the work started. The work of making the intersection between light and shadows. After I decided to type everything down, I didn't look at it anymore. And touching it it brings back a lot of memory. It brings back the memories of the time in Montana. It brings back everything that has happened, that had happened in that specific period of my life. It brings back the memories of coming back here, and it brings back a lot of memory, and isn't actually that long ago, but it feels like a life ago. A life ago. Poetry to me is really the bridge of everything I've been doing so far, and the glue of who I am. And it helped me to find out that I am actually many and multitudes. I believe that we all are many and multitudes. Some of us are aware and some are not aware. Poetry is the vehicle to become inclusive of all these parts we are composed by, and in that act we become inclusive of others too. So poetry to me is really the vehicle for integration and inclusion. That's the main message I want to bring with the whisper. Is changing a lens. Then we start seeing things in a different way. For me, it was very clear. I wrote this sentence actually also in the whisper, and it goes something like that. It was like asking a rainbow to be just one color and be blue, but I wanted to be all the rainbow. Because it's Wilkman said the same. I am many, I'm multitudes, I'm large. And it seems that it happened suddenly, but I think it was a journey up to that point. It's almost like a rite of passage, that then we mature to that point. There is a challenge and we can go to the next level, and this always repeat in our life. It's not that once the train is passed there won't be any more chances. No, there is always there. It's always there. And the moment that we become aware, then we can make a different choice. We can make a different decision. And if we don't, it's okay too, in the sense that, okay, we're not ready. We need more time.
It's like a door is opened and you have a choice to walk through that door or not. And you can look through the door and see what's in the next room. And you can go stick your head in and then come back. Or you can walk through the door and pull the door shut and start anew.
we can always have, that's always available to us. Actually, I don't believe that, okay, if you don't do it now, you won't ever do it. I mean, till the last minute, we have the possibility to open another door and enter into another room, always, always, till the point, actually, that I don't know if it is true. So I'll have to wait to know if it is true or not. But till the point we realize that there are no rooms anymore, and there is a garden, or there is an ocean, and that there is the entire rainbow, and it's not just one color. And I think that that's the purpose of life.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Well, I'm grateful that you joined me today, and
Thank
you
you.
give me a lot to think about. And I hope other people will seek you out. How do they find you if they want to connect with you?
Well, my name is so peculiar that as soon as they
You're the
Google
only
my
one in the
name,
world.
I'm
Yeah.
the only one in the world. So definitely, if somebody wants to reach out and just wants to connect, is curious, I'm open to to connect with everyone, and I'm very easy to spot.
And appreciate. So we'll put the your website and your LinkedIn connections
Thank you.
in the show notes. And I'm really grateful for you being here. And I hope you've enjoyed the conversation, but I also hope you enjoyed the video, because you will have seen it by the time we're at this point in the show. And I thank you. And
Thank you.
I wish you well. And I wish that your becoming will bring light to the world.
Oh, that's very generous of you, Ed. Thank you. That's very generous.
Because I think you've crossed over a line, a horizon or something. You've crossed over from being someone who is wondering and pondering what man, and now you are actively seeking to become someone. And that in order to do that, you have to give up fear, you give up a lot of things that oftentimes we become very comfortable with. And because it's shared by so many people, fear is shared by so many people, disappointment is shared by so many people. And so when you say, well, I'm no longer going to be afraid, and I'm no longer going to be disappointed, I'm going to embrace the beauty and the expansiveness of the world. It changes a lot of things, and it becomes a journey that has no destination. Well, a lot of waypoints along the way of milestones that you say, oh, I remember that. Oh, that was a great time. That was a great encounter. That encounter changed me. That encounter encouraged me. That sort of thing. And I'm sure that the people that meet you feel this way too, because you're that kind of person. And I'm grateful for that. And I wish you well in your future.
Thank you, Ed. That's very generous of you. Thank you.
Well, I just observe and see what I see, and I've learned by listening to say what I need to say, because it needs to be said, and without fear of contradiction or anything else. You know what, everyone, it's the same with you, that there is something in you that is worth identifying and worth celebrating. And I hope that you are able to find some encouragement today, so that you will maybe sit down and write 2 or 3 lines of poetry that describes what you're feeling right now. And if you feel so inclined, share that in the comments section or ask a question, and I'll be glad to share it. And we'll have conversation, because this is what this podcast, this network is all about. So subscribe and hit the like button, and let's have some conversation. And I thank you. And we'll see you again. I'm sure we'll see each other again. And I thank you all, and see you next time on the Eddie Network podcast. Bye-bye.